Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, featuring the sharpest minds in marketing, inspirational case histories, and weekly insights you can apply to your business. Find out why top CMOs rank this podcast among their favorites. Now, here's your host, Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Hey, it's Drew, and my guest today is Kevin Spurway, who is the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Appian. And I'm going to give Kevin some specific challenges in terms of explaining what what they do in 6 words or less, which will be fun. But I wanted to preface this show by talking a little bit about customers and why on this show, it's funny, we spent a lot of time talking about acquisition, a fair amount of time talking about employee engagement, but very little time actually talking about customer activation. And in sort of Renegade's ridiculously simple model, the 1-3-1-3, we get one story, we have 3 targets, employees, customers, and prospects in that order. We need to spend more time on customers and how you really make a difference and get them to help do the marketing for you, along with all the other good things that happen when you have happy customers. So with that, Kevin, welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite.
Thank you, Drew. It is really great to be here today. Looking forward to our conversation.
First of all, I couldn't help but notice that you went to Dartmouth, Big Green. That's where my son went there. So cool. Did you enjoy your time in Hanover?
I loved it up there. It's cold, but it is an educational experience that is pretty unique in the world, and congratulations to your son. He made a great choice.
Yeah, it was just when we first visited up there, it was like to us, it felt like college Disneyland. And as much as I love my alma mater and talk about Duke all the time, it was an incredible experience for them. And then you went to Harvard Law School, and I don't, not that many senior vice presidents of marketing end up coming from law school in particular, or as prestigious a one as that. That's an interesting transition. And how did you decide you didn't want to practice law?
Well, I kind of went into law school with the belief that my legal career would probably be a short one. So I saw myself longer term really wanting to be on the business side of things, because it was important for me to be in a role that really drove strategy for an organization. So I did go get the JD. And I found it actually very useful over the course of my career in a variety of different contexts. Practiced law for a very short time, and I had the opportunity to kind of bounce out after about a year and a half and join a technology company, and the rest is history.
It's funny. I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I figured there was a tiny bit of gap between law school and the first job you put on there. I went, oh, there it is. Yeah. And so, by the way, so I happened to another family connection. My brother was class of 79 at the law school, as they say. And there was an interesting article in the Times this week about 6 marriages that came out of that class of 79. Of course, that was the class that also graduated John Roberts. So a distinguished class indeed. Did you have any marriages as a result of your class that you know of?
Not that I know of, but it's certainly possible. Yeah.
So anyway, this was 6 marriages that there's a lot of bonding, I guess, that goes on up in Cambridge.
It tends to be a shared, challenging experience that does bond people for life. So I still stay in close touch with the guys that were on my floor at the dorm at Harvard Law School, and we try to get out every year and get together and just kind of touch base.
Nice. Okay, so here you are. This is actually your second round at Appian, and I thought that was curious too. You did 4-year stint and then left and then came back. What sort of talk a little bit about the they say you can't come home again, but you did.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to be able to do that and rejoin Appian. I rejoined Appian, I think almost 5 years ago now. First time around, I was here pretty early stage. I think there were about 40 employees when I joined the company, and I was able to be with Appian through those more formative years. And it was a great experience then. Helped to grow the company nicely, and helped to kind of put in place a lot of the culture and technology or at least the technological approach that continues to serve us well even now. Ended up actually leaving largely because you're talking about relationships, largely because the person that I was interested in, who I'm now married to, was up in Boston, and she really wanted to be in Boston, and I needed to go to Boston to kind of make that happen. But I've since managed to get her back down to our headquarters area here in Northern Virginia, and we are now happily married. So I had the opportunity to come back to Appian, and it's been like I said, a great experience. Great to rejoin the team, and I think over the last few years had a pretty good run.
Very cool. Okay, so can you do Appian in 6 words or less?
Appian is a platform for building enterprise applications. It's based on a new approach called low code, which is about 10 to 20 times faster than normal development. I think I went way past
low code. No, but low code, not to be confused with high code or what when we used to be in the web business, clean code. Low code, how low can you go with code? I mean, what are we talking about there?
Well, I think it's a range. It's a spectrum. At one end, there are vendors out there who claim that they can do things with no code. I think the reality is when you're building applications that are high impact, that solve big problems and create a lot of value for organizations, there always tends to be the need for some level of code. But to a large extent, you can reduce the amount of code by using declarative tools to a pretty low level. So this tends to obviously, as you might imagine, significantly increase developer productivity, and it also increases the reliability and the performance of what developers build. So by virtue of the fact that when you build an application in Appian, you're kind of drawing it or assembling it like a pile of Lego bricks, we then take that construct, that idea that somebody has instantiated using these declarative tools, and we translate it into an application. And that translation process actually creates what we like to talk about as free power in the application. So the application automatically runs on mobile. The application automatically scales to very high levels. It has high availability. And it has other enterprise level attributes that otherwise would take a lot of time and effort and incremental resources to actually code as if you were coding from scratch.
So if we're dealing with non-technical people here and they just, what would you say is one of the cooler examples of a client who has used your tools to create an amazing app for their use?
Sure. So quick example would be Ryder. Everybody's probably familiar with Ryder trucks. They rent trucks. So a lot of their processes are based on Appian. They've built a mobile application that helps them handle check-in, check-out, inspection of the truck, insurance aspects of that process. And they've actually used that application or that suite of applications to significantly reduce the amount of time it takes to get the customer through the process by about 50%.
There you go. So mobile, which makes sense, but including, it's funny because when you return a rental car, for example, they have a little handheld device, but all it does is just sort of they click some boxes, but they still have to do inspections, and there's no way I can if there was damage, they can't take a picture of it right then or that kind of thing. That's what we're talking about, right? Where the app does more than simply just sort of check you in and out. Sounds like
that's exactly right.
So what would you say is the most renegade thing you've done in your career?
So at Appian, we tend to really deeply cultivate our customer relationships. Our customers are incredibly important to our overall organizational success. As of course they are with many organizations, but we've in particular placed extra focus and extra attention on those customers on the marketing side of things. So I think maybe one of the most interesting things that I've done, at least from my perspective, is I've actually created a structure within the marketing department, a person who heads an organization who reports directly to me that is entirely focused on post-sale marketing. So marketing directly into our customer base and coordinating with other aspects of the Appian organization to create a customer experience that marketing has a lot of touch points in, as well as other parts of that organization. But create an experience that's really compelling and unique and brings those customers back to us, hopefully for more.
Very cool. Post-sale marketing. And I think that's a perfect place. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into what post-sale marketing is. And what I think so interesting here is, and the important thing from what Kevin said, someone is dedicated to this. This is a discipline. Someone's responsibility for it. They're measured against it. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to another great interview on Renegade Thinkers Unite with Drew Neiser. But the value doesn't end there. As a listener, you can download a free ebook from Drew, Renegade Thinkers, interviews with 11 trailblazing CMOs any business can learn from. Top marketing thought leaders and proven executives from Time Warner, American Express, and Chico's, and others. Get your free copy at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook. For listeners only at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook.
Okay, we're back, and my guest is Kevin Spurway, the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Appian. And we've been talking about something that we just called post-sale marketing. And the idea, as I understand it, is you get a customer. And so many businesses, we know that 83% of all B2B marketing dollars go into acquisition. I don't know where the rest of it goes. But you get this customer, and then it's like, okay, let's move on. And marketing's job doesn't have to end. So let's talk about post-sale marketing. First of all, you hired someone. What's that person's level and responsibility?
That person is a director level person, so pretty senior. She's held senior marketing roles in other organizations in the past, and she's built a great team underneath her, and so it's a very significant role in our organization.
And how many people would you say are on the team in total for post-sale marketing now?
Got about 6 people on that team.
So it's a sizable group. Okay, and let's just start at the sort of basics. What does success look like? Are we talking about sort of, so it's we got the customer, now we've increased revenue, or do we also have some sort of customer satisfaction metrics in there?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky for us to capture customer satisfaction metrics, although we do go out and we do survey our customers at various points along the way. We actually just completed a buyer voice survey, which gave us some interesting insight into how our customers think about us and how they tend to perceive our value in the organization. But the primary goal is to drive both renewals and expansions of projects, new projects within customers. And the way that we measure that as an organization, Appian-wide, is through net revenue retention, which is sort of the Wall Street financial number, and we tend to have excellent net revenue retention.
Net revenue retention, and so so it's sort of like an annual value per customer in some ways. I mean, how do you calculate net revenue retention?
Look at the existing base of customers that you have from a recurring revenue standpoint. You subtract out whatever the churn is, and then you add whatever the increase of revenue is over the course of that year.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. So measuring customer satisfaction is tricky. That's interesting. So talk a little bit about the buyer voice survey and what is it that you meant to find and how you went about getting that information.
Yeah. So we actually contracted with a third party to help us with an independent analysis of what our customers are thinking. And the intention here was to understand how they perceived Appian, what their thoughts were in terms of how we fit within their organization, what their perception was of our value, of our competitive differentiation, how our message resonated with them, and the positives and negatives of that. So we actually took a lot of very interesting insight from that study, and I think leveraging a third party to do it kind of gave it a level of independence that enabled us to look at things in a little bit of a different and maybe more studied perspective.
And was this quantitative or qualitative or both?
It was both.
So that they were surveyed on some baseline data, and then they were followed up with interview questions. And I totally agree with you. A third party makes so much sense because they're going to be much more honest. And it makes a lot of sense. So you get all this information back. Often in this kind of buyer study, you suddenly discover things that could impact the product. You could find things that impact the customer experience. You find some deficits. What were some of the things that you can share that you learned that you were able to sort of go, aha, we're doing this right, and we can improve somewhere else?
Sure. So I think one of the things that that came across really strongly for us in the survey was that a large part of the reason that our customers like us is it's about people. It's about the people that they engaged with through the initial process of purchasing the Appian solution. It's about the people that they worked with on the ground to actually implement a project. And, as well on an ongoing basis, the people that they continue to have engagement with in Appian, whether it's support, whether it's the people on the marketing side with our global events, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, one of the big findings at least was all about the fact that the people experience of Appian is very good. And that's something I think, the interesting insight for me at least, was that's something that tends to get lost, I think, a little bit in our marketing, or has been in the past, because we focus very much on product and technology, as you might expect from software.
Gosh. Yeah, exactly. And it's fascinating because here we are, we started the conversation with, well, it's a tool that helps software developers develop apps. And it turns out that, the tools are great, but what they really care about are the people that help them. That's fascinating to me and really music to my ears, in the sense that we all do business with people at the end of the day, and we want to do business with people. And even though this is a software product for software people, the people matter. That's amazing. So how did that impact your sort of go-to-market for your, as we called it, post-sale marketing?
So I think we're still kind of in the process of taking a lot of the buyer voice results and moving them through the cycle of turning it into messaging and activities. I think on the post-sale marketing side, though, this has always been the theory behind a lot of the effort that goes on there. Not all of the effort, but a lot of the effort. It's creating, I guess, to put it in a concise way, it's leveraging a set of marketing skill sets to tie together a customer experience that's more holistic than we've been able to do previously in the past. So, as I mentioned before, typically with an Appian implementation, we have professional services that works with the customer, or we have a partner that goes and works with the customer to do an implementation. Marketing plays a role in that part of the process to help support that implementation with tools that help us message to the customer about what their experience is through that cycle. And then at the back end of that cycle, one of the things that our post-sale marketing organization is responsible for is really celebrating the success of the customer. So once that implementation is done, we do an event called a Lego Go Live, where we actually award the customer with a customized Lego sculpture created by a master Lego builder that is reflective of some of the unique attributes or values or identity of that particular customer. And we turn this into an event. It's a good opportunity for the project team that's worked on that implementation to kind of engage and bond with the customer. Sales gets involved in it, and it's really kind of a special engaging aspect of how we develop that tight connection with our customer and celebrate their success.
I love that idea. I actually saw it on the website, and they're very cool. We'll link to it in the show notes, that the designs that you come up with. At what stage are you doing this? Is this after they've gotten their first sort of, if you will, app up and running, so there's some sort of success involved? Or is it, hey, we've landed you and here's your new Lego? I mean, at what point do you decide it's time to do your Lego Go Live?
Yeah, we typically will run the go live at the point where the customer experiences that launch success of their first big project being released and available to whoever they're making it available to. Typically, inside the organization or across their value chain in some way. So it is it's effectively a launch event for the solution that they've built on top of Appian.
And is this something, so this launch event, because there's a lot of ways to describe it, is it something physical? I mean, are you there presenting this this Lego sculpture, if you will, to them? How do you actually implement these things?
Yeah, it's typically a dinner. It could be on at times we've had events held on at the customer site. We often will do the event at a nice restaurant or something like that that's in the area. And typically, like from the Appian side, there's representatives from my team, representatives from sales who who own that customer relationship, representatives from a professional services organization who have delivered or have helped to deliver or participated in delivery of that project. And we get together with the customer's team and we celebrate.
And you know what I love about this is that in the fast track, agile software development world, it's just like you do your sprints, you get this thing going, and all of a sudden everybody's back doing their next sprint. And there isn't time in most of these things to actually stop and pat ourselves in the back and say, hey, we accomplished something. Sure, we're going to change it in a week or two or three. But so what you sort of force into that moment to say, hey, you guys did something here. Congratulations. That's awesome. And I don't know, but I imagine, we all as humans sort of need a little moment to say, yeah, it's like your birthday, but this is a good thing. So I imagine are the customers surprised when you do this or just delighted?
I think they're delighted. I think in the past they've been surprised. We've communicated this enough now out to our customer base that I think most of them are probably aware that this is something that's in the cards, but yeah, I think they all enjoy it, and the actual Lego sculpture itself, like you said, go to our website and check them out. They're really cool. I mean, they can be pretty sophisticated. They can be pretty interesting, and we've been lucky to work with some good people who have put these things together for us to really kind of capture some fun things about our customers in the process.
Very cool. So I guess we could say the Lego's out of the box on this one. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to keep mining the world of post-sale marketing. Stay with us. Did you know that Renegade Thinkers Unite was ranked number 2 of the top 10 podcasts for CMOs by Crackerjack Marketing? Wow, we're really honored. Now, we couldn't do that without amazing guests, and we've had some amazing CMOs on this show, and also terrific listeners like you all. If you like what we do here, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Also, as a special thanks, I'd like to send you a free ebook on Renegade Thinkers. Now, for that, just email drew@renegade.com. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, we're back, and my guest is Kevin Spurway, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Appian, and we've been talking about celebrating customer success with this sort of the whole Lego Go Live, and it occurred to me I want to circle back to, you talked about your buyer research, and we did some research for one of our clients, who's a software client, and one of the interesting things that we learned in that research was that there was a module that they were adding on to the software that the customer had to pay more to get, and so some customers didn't get it. And it turned out that the customers didn't get that module didn't have as much satisfaction, and so they were actually hurting themselves. And that was a surprising thing. It's like as you're doing these implementations in software, if you modularly price them and don't include all the things that get satisfaction, you can shoot yourself in the foot. And so I only bring that up because that was an insight that no one expected us to find. When you were looking at this, other than the discovery that people were really important in it, was there anything sort of else that you can share that was like an aha moment? You went, oh, now there's something that we can run with or fix or somehow or other address that goes maybe beyond the experience. I mean, like literally some product things.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that a lot turned up for us on the product side, to be completely honest with you. I think the other big part of the value, the buyer voice study for me that was valuable was it kind of hit on a few specific things that customers had in common about how they described the value that they were getting from Appian, the words that they chose to use. The words that they reacted positively to, the words that they didn't react positively to. So from a messaging perspective, I think that's very useful to me and insightful to me. I'm actually kind of interested in the comment that you made, the example that you shared, because it actually hits on something that I find to be pretty interesting about Appian in particular. One of the core principles that we operate on as a company, kind of across the board, both on the product side, on the marketing side, on the sales side, is this idea of simplicity. So for us, even though we have a very broad and very sophisticated product, we basically have one SKU. We sell one thing, and it's one unified piece of software. So the idea that we are able to reduce complexity through the purchase process, through the downstream customer experience, by making it easier for customers to not have the problem that you're talking about. It's actually really important and really kind of fundamental to the way that we go to market. We want all of our customers to have access to the full suite of things so that they don't feel like they're limited in any particular regard. So, just what you were saying resonated with me, so I wanted to call it out.
Very cool, and I appreciate that, because simplicity is a fabulous goal. It is extremely hard. It is built in and baked into book number 2 that I'm working on right now, the Ridiculously Simple Playbook for B2B Innovators. And it is it's hard to be simple. And I respect folks who can keep it simple, because it from a design standpoint, from a thinking through standpoint, you really have to be smart to simplify something. Okay, as we talk about this notion of post-sale marketing, we've got staff. You've done research, so you understand who these folks are. Then there becomes the question of and you've celebrated their success. So I imagine there are other marketing components and communication components to this. Let's talk about some of those things that you are doing to market to existing customers on an ongoing basis.
To a large extent, a big part of the problem is unifying the information about customers. And I think every organization has this problem, because some information typically is sitting in a finance system, some is in your CRM system, some is in spreadsheets scattered all through the organization. One of the things that we've been able to do within Appian, and we use Appian to do this, is create a unified view of the customer. So all of that information, everything about the customer, their sales information, their utilization of our software running on our cloud, their participation with marketing events and activities, it's all unified in one, what we call a customer record. And that customer record enables us to kind of not only have this single picture, but enable us to create alignment and engagement across the organization, kind of coming from a single perspective. So from a marketing perspective, it enables us in particular to engage really well with sales, and to create campaigns for our customers that are pretty targeted in terms of who we're trying to get to. It enables us to work with sales and engage around the creation of content that's particularly focused on a unique customer and that particular customer's set of challenges and the buyer journey that they're going on. So there's definitely some advantage around that. It also presents for us a single point to try to mature the customer into more of an advocate on behalf of Appian. And we've put a lot of focus and emphasis on getting our customers to tell their stories. One of the best ways to explain Appian is to rely on our customers to explain our value for us, to tell their story that's specific to their industry or specific to their business problem and how they've applied Appian to actually solve that problem.
How do you get your customers to so I know a lot of folks that are listening, B2B senior marketers, are saying, yeah, I love the idea of video testimonials, but the customer doesn't want to do it, or we can't convince them to do it. What's been the secret to getting more customer case histories, particularly video?
So I think a couple things. I think first of all, building relationships with that customer at several levels throughout the organization. Of course, it's great to have the senior relationships, the executive level relationships, and we strive as a company to build those. But it's also important to build the relationships with the people who are actually the direct practitioners who are using Appian the most and are being successful with it. So we've got dedicated programs that target each of those things. We also have within that post-sale organization that I told you about, we have a couple people who are dedicated specifically to customer marketing and customer stories. So helping our customers primarily through video testimonial, but also through other mechanisms, whether it's a presentation at Appian World, which is our annual user conference coming up in another couple months, or other types of things like webinars or case studies or whatever it is. We have resources that not only help our customers create the artifacts of the communication, but also work with them, build relationships, and encourage them to actually participate. So this is the full-time job of a couple people within our organization.
And I'm going to circle back on this just one more time to the folks that are listening. If you are serious about some of the things that we've been talking about when we talk about post-sale marketing, then you need to have resources that are dedicated to it. And it's so interesting. Each time you mentioned a new thing, you said, and we have someone dedicated to that. Well, that's how stuff gets done. If it's only partially someone's responsibility, it's very hard to say, well, you're the customer success person and the customer story person and oh, by the way, you need to do some acquisition too. You just, they run out of bandwidth. They're not sure what to focus on. It's much harder. Now, I recognize that you have to get to a certain size to do that, but it sure helps. And if we talk about focus for a moment, you don't add those things until you can add resources to do it. I think is really the way to be thinking about this. But that's just me. So as you think about post-sale marketing, can you sort of summarize for us? You have a group of CMOs on the line here. Give them two things to do and one don't that are sort of very high level that will help them be successful with their post-sale marketing.
Sure. So I think the first thing to do would be to take the time to really understand what your customer experience is. And one of the first things that we did when we created this post-sale group was we asked the person in charge of it to go and really work with people on the Appian side to understand what is the process, the typical process of buyer experience. Once somebody purchases our technology, how does their experience as a customer unfold? What are the major touch points, the major milestones? And then, how can we create some level of consistent experience across those? And then how can we leverage those major touch points, those major milestones, like a go live, for example, into something that becomes an event or an experiential point that creates a positive experience where we build a connection and a rapport and a brand connection really to Appian. And I think that's a logical starting point. The second point that I would make is the one that you made a little bit earlier, which is to do this properly, you need people who are focused on it, and it really is their mandate, their mission in terms of what their job is. And I think when you start bringing those couple things together and building a program around those two aspects, then you can start to get more focused on how do you extract value from that set of initiatives by creating demand or reinforcing or accelerating sales processes that are already in the works.
Very cool. Okay, so as I was listening to you, and I try to be in the moment, but there were a couple of things that occurred to me that I sort of think we can wrap the show up on. So several months ago, I interviewed Jennifer Deutsch at Park Place Technologies, and they basically do manage server farms, and what they do is when a Dell server goes off of warranty, they pick up the warranty and continue to make sure that these machines operate. And when they launched a new campaign, which was all about upside, they launched it with an AI that could predict with incredible accuracy when a server was going to go down so that you could replace it before there was a problem. And what occurred to me in your software with your sort of, let's say the thing that you talked about where you using Appian to sort of look at your customers and have this full view of that maybe you would be able to have some kind of predictive because you could see here's what a successful customer looks like in the profile. And have you given thought to, do you have any early warning signs that can predict where, if a customer is in trouble?
We do. I would say they're not AI-based, at least at this point, and there's a reason for that. We definitely have, I would call it a dashboard or a scorecard that gives us some indicators where we can assess what the experience of the customer is and again, look for those early warning signs. AI is always a little bit tricky, though. I think AI's got a lot of promise, and I think it has the ability to impact in a lot of different situations. But for a business like ours, which is, I would say, not a high volume business, it gets a little bit tricky because there aren't enough data points to really make AI work. And I think a lot of marketers fall into this trap of getting excited about how to apply AI to something, but they just, in their businesses, they don't have the volume to actually make AI work. Because to train AI to make it effective, you need to have a lot of data. And at least in terms of where we are with the volume of customers that we have, that's not our business yet. We don't have hundreds of thousands, millions of customers. So the point is, to get back to your question, yes, we do have ways of understanding and flagging and identifying customer satisfaction, but AI is not yet part of the equation.
No, and that totally makes sense, and I appreciate you providing that distinction for folks, because sometimes people do get excited about the glitter of some of these things and then don't realize that something like AI, you need a ton of data. Okay, last question for you, which I think is relevant. I did notice that you have a bot on your website, and then in an interview with CIO, you mentioned that you were testing or playing, I think was the term, playing with bots, and I'm curious if, as you're in that application, you've thought about using the bot as a customer service tool, as opposed to what most people sort of think about it as a, hey, welcome to the website. What can I sell you? I mean, I know you're not doing it that way. It's welcome to the website. How can I help you? But have you thought about, and are you implementing the bot with a customer service hat on?
That's a great question. So I think at this point, the bot is it's living on our website, as you've noticed. We're working with it, and we are, I think, finding ways to get more and more out of it. It seems to be turning into more and more of a lead generator for us, which is fantastic. We have thought about some ways of expanding the use of the bot, not exactly directly into our product in sort of a post-sale kind of a way, but actually in terms of our trial experience. So we have a free trial for Appian on our website. You can go in and sign up and learn how to use Appian pretty quickly. And we're looking right now how we can bring that bot directly into the product, the free trial experience, so that we enable people who are trying out our software to really be able to get questions answered very quickly in a robotic sort of a way, but also leverage that to punch out and talk to a person, a human being, directly in a more interactive way as well. So, and have the chatbot kind of intermediate that connection.
And I think that's so important because these are the folks that are ready to buy. And if you don't respond right away, you may be missing that opportunity. So it makes a lot of sense. That's a really good use case based on my limited understanding. For those of folks who have listened to my episode with Dave Gerhardt of Drift, you'll know what I'm talking about. The speed here really matters. So anyway, all right. We spent an entire show focused on customers. I am thrilled about that. I think there's so much good information here. I'm not going to attempt to summarize because you did a great job. I simply want to thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you as well, Drew. It's been really interesting conversation.
I appreciate it. And to all the listeners, I hope you are thinking about ways that you can take care of your customers, that you're talking to them, that you're thinking about the experience, that you're thinking about ways of celebrating the success, thinking about ways of aggregating them at events and really spending the time, because those are the folks that you're going to need to recommend your business moving forward. And you know that as the marketer, but don't let the acquisition pressure so force you to take your eye off those wonderful folks who are currently using your business. So with that, thanks as always for listening. Don't forget to email me or send in your thoughts for future shows. And until next time, keep those renegade thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.